Alhamdulillah wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. So just to go back and review the last couple issues that he brought up here, the last couple of masail. So he says, basically in the shufa, in general, we have the shufa, which is something on something that is shared property. All right, so these people are shared property, even if it's two people or it's more people. All right, and so if someone is going to sell their share of this property that's mixed and whatnot, or of this thing that's mixed, in this case, they will sell it. The person who takes it from them and buys it from them forcefully, they're going to take it from him at the price that he was selling it to someone else. And so when we know what this price is that he was selling it to someone else, this is when they're gonna buy it at that price. That's the price that's set. They're not getting a different price, they're getting that price. So the issue that we have when he talks about the person who marries a woman and he is, for his mahr, he says, إِذَا تَزَوَّجَ امْرَأَةً عَلَى شِقْصٍ. So if he's going to marry a woman and ala, this is here like, and for the mahr is going to be a shiqs. And a shiqs is like a piece of land, or like his portion of the land that is mixed with him. So if he's going to say, my mahr for this woman is this, where's the price tag? Because before we were talking, if he's selling it to somebody, this person has the right to take it from him beforehand. But here, he's actually giving it as a piece of, like, as for mahr. So where's the price tag? The price tag here is the normal thing that a woman of this caliber in society would take as a mahr. And so normally, of course, like the mahr al-mithl, this is a term, it will come back and over again. We'll talk about it maybe in more detail. But in general, we would look to this woman, we'd see what did her sisters get in return for mahr? Like what was their mahr worth? If they're similar in beauty and similar in status and whatnot, they're similar in like sifat. So if they're similar in these things, how much did their sisters get in return? That's the mahr al-mithl. And then sometimes you'll go out to if you don't have a sister, then you can go to the nearest relatives of the family as well. And you spread out and you look at how much was their mahr. And this is the mahr al-mithl that you would look at, because of course the family itself has a certain worth that another family is going to have a different worth. You know, everyone would be different in how much they ask for their child, depending on the status of the family and the status of the woman. And if the woman was brought up in a high status, or if she's just like she's a poor person, so she's content with less. All of this is different. So we would look at what is someone of this course. This is mahr mithl, is what they'll say. So this is how much that person, if he says, no, you're not giving it to that woman, I'm buying it from you. So he's going to buy it from him at the price of the mahr mithl. Say this was like 100,000 Egyptian pounds. Okay, he's going to buy 100,000 Egyptian pounds. Or maybe however much that mahr is, that's how much he pays for it. All right? And so this woman she would get like the mahr mithl instead, in that case. And so I hope that that part is clear. And then the last part that we went into was وَإِنْ كَانَ الشُّفَعَاءُ جَمَاعَةً اسْتَحَقُّوهَا عَلَى قَدْرِ الْأَمْلَاكِ. And so, if the shufa'a, here he says shufa'a, this is the shafi', it's like the plural of shafi', which is like the partners. If there's a bunch of partners, and not just one partner that's going to take the other part of it, but these are multiple partners, then all of them, they get a right to it according to how many of them there are. So say there's 3 partners, and so then they would break up this last part half. So if they're both going to go in on it, they get half. If one person doesn't want it, the other person get all of it, of that other third. So like there's 1/3 that the person wants to sell, his third. Okay, so the other 2 are the first ones to get that third, and if they both go in on it, then they get half of that third. So then they would split it in half, So they have the right, and if there's 6 people, then all of them get a right to this thing according to the amount of people that there are. They have a 1/6. If the other people jump out, then they have a more right to whatever is left. Does that make sense? And so that is the last part of this of the bab shufa that he has to talk about here. All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is another type of financial transaction, which is investment. It's a type of investment. It's called qirad. And in qirad is a type of investing in somebody. A lot of people, they have money, but they don't have the time. So they want to put their money to use. All right, and some people have skills, and someone's a tajir. Say he's a tajir, he's a businessman. He knows how to hustle, and if you gave him $500, he could flip that really quick and get you profit. So, but you're not going to be doing anything. You just want to make sure that your $500 gets a little something extra. You know, you want to put it to use so it's not getting stashed away and not doing anything. And of course, this is of the maqasid of the sharia, is that people don't leave their money sitting around. That people use their money and they do something with it. You know that money is moving. This is of the things that, of course, like the zakat only touches the money that's stagnant for a year. The money that's stagnant for a year, that's what gets touched by the zakat, not the money that is moving. So this is a type of someone investing, and there's certain rulings regarding this type of investment. And it's important to understand this, especially if someone is looking to invest in like certain individuals or and whatnot, or like a company, they're wanting to invest in somebody. But this is a little different than stocks. I'll say it's just a little different than stocks for reasons. But we'll look at what it means, and then we'll see if this makes sense afterwards. But it's called qirad, and of course this is, or it's also called mudaraba or muqarada. Now these are different words for it, and also the meaning of it in like the sharia sense is tawkil malikin bija'li malihi biyad akhar liyattajira fihi والربح مشترك بينهما. So tawkil malikin bija'li malihi biyad akhar. So that this is someone that's giving, there's someone that owns money, and he's giving money to someone else for him to do business with this money. And then the ribh, the ribh is like the profit. This is going to be shared between them. All right, this is the key thing. That's going to be shared between them. And so this is what is called qirad. And so here there's the different people that are involved in this, or like the arkan of this transaction, like the different pieces. One is the malik. He's the one who owns the money. All right, he's the one who owns the money. And then there's the amil. This is the guy who's doing it. He's the one doing the business or whatever. He's the one doing the work. And then there's the amal, which is the work that's being done. There's the ribh, which is the profit. There's the sigha, which is him telling him, you're going to do this for me, like that transaction, making sure that this happens between them, that they talk about this. And also the mal itself, like the actual money itself, is a part of this. So these are the things that he's going to talk about, but these are the pieces of that. And of course, with a lot of the mu'amalats, it's important to know, they'll say like the arkan, which are the pieces of this amal, know what each one is part is called, and know what it means, so that when it comes up we understand it. So he says, Abu Shujaa here, rahimahullah, he says, وَلِلْ قِرَادِ أَرْبَعَةُ شَرَائِطَ. So he says there's 4 conditions for this qirad, like this transaction. And so he says, أَن يَكُونَ عَلَى نَاضٍ مِنَ الدَّرَاهِمِ وَالدَّنَانِيرِ. So this needs to be on a certain, like nad, which is a type of currency that is established. This is like an established currency. Like they would say nad when this is a type of printed coin of denanir or dirahim, and dirahim. So like this was actually the coin that was actually stamped by the country and whatnot. This is a certain type. So it's actually a currency that's set. And so, and this is what he says here. And so he says, وَأَيَّأْذَنَ, the second of these transactions. First is that it's on a currency, that he gives him an actual currency to do the business with and to invest. And then the second one, وَأَيَّأْذَنَ رَبُّ الْمَالِ, this is the person who owns the mal, صاحب الْمَال, the one who owns the money, لِلْعَامِلِ فِي التَّصَرُّفِ مُطْلَقًا. So either he lets him do whatever he wants with the money in general. He says, you're a businessman, you know how to flip things. He's not going to tell him what to flip it with, but he's going to tell him, you know how to flip things, you know how to get things done. I'm going to give you this and get me some profit. All right? And so the profit split between us. All right? So this is one way where he says just in general, mutlaqan, which is in general, however you want to do it, you can do it. Or, and he says, أو فيما لا ينقطع وجوده غالبا. So if he wants to say, I want you to do this in a certain area, then he can tell him he could do it in a certain area, but this area has to be something that doesn't stop normally. So if someone is doing, say he's doing, he's working with a certain type of transaction that is only going to be good for a certain time. It's not going to be always available. So in this point, he wouldn't be able to do this. And so like if someone was trying to do he told them, I want you to do business transactions with emeralds and like sapphires. This is something that's not always available. And so to limit him to this is limiting him in his ability to actually make money. And so you can't limit him in something that wouldn't let him and give him any like profit, or that's like very rare that he would be able to get profit. It has to be in something that was going to be there. If he's going to limit him in a certain thing, say he says, you're going to do this and I want you to do this investment, but you're going to work in trading clothes. He says, you're going to be doing clothes. Okay, clothes is something that this guy does. So he's not necessarily going to do cameras, he's just going to do clothes. As opposed to if he said anything, then this person can flip whatever he wants. Or if he says a certain thing, it needs to be something that's always available. All right, and that doesn't go unavailable like normally. So this is the first, let's say the first of the conditions, that this is on an actual currency that he gives him, an actual currency that is from either, he says dirahim or dinar, we'll say in our time any currency, it's an actual currency. That he also gives him permission, and this permission is either in general or it's with a certain thing that is normally available, that doesn't stop normally. That's what he means by here. فيما لا ينقطع وجوده غالبا, that's normally available, this thing, in a certain field. And this is the third condition here. وأن يشترط له جزءا معلوما من الربح. So it's the third one, that he puts in a condition. He says, I'm going to have a certain portion of this ribh. And this portion is a percentage. So it's a percentage, however much we make. Say he says, I want to have 80, 20%. 80 is for me, and 20% of the profit is for you. All right. Or they agree on something else. He says, no, that's not enough. I want 60-40. Okay, if we agree on 60-40, whatever it is, they agree upon a certain percentage that's going to be split with the profit. And this is the way that they work together. The profit will come back. And of course, and he also says here, also the Ratsan Mal, which is also like the initial down payment, of course that comes back to him. That comes back to the actual person who is investing. So, and he also says, وَأَن يُقَدِّرَ بِمُدَّةٍ وَأَلَّا يُقَدَّرَ بِمُدَّةٍ. And so this is also, that you can't put it for a specific amount of time. You can't say, I'm going to give you this money to flip for, you got 3 months to flip it, and then the ribh is based on between us. No, he can't put this on this time limit. Because sometimes when somebody starts investing, it takes a while. And so to put a time limit on it is like stopping the possibilities of him even investing and getting back for this person who's putting his time and effort into this thing. For him to have like a timeline that if he doesn't invest by this, he's losing it. He's not going to get his payback. And this stops him from like him getting his return for his time and his efforts. So this is one of the things that it's not allowed to do, to have an actual time limit on this. And he also says, وَلَا ضَمَانَ عَلَى الْعَامِلِ إِلَّا بِعُدْوَانٍ. And so, as we talk about the domain, like who is held liable. This amil that is given this money, he's not held liable for losses or if something happens to this money, except with udwan, which is if he does something bad. Like if he's stupid with the money and he does something that normally wouldn't be done. Of course, everyone takes risks when they're doing transactions, and this is to be expected. But if he does something like he leaves the money hanging like out of the safe and just sitting up on the cash register or something, and then someone just takes it. Okay, this was his problem. He didn't put this in its proper place, and then he would be held liable. But if it was something, but other than that, he is held. He is the yad al-aman. Like this person gave him money, so this person trusts him in general. He wouldn't give him money unless he trusts him. So this is normally there. And so there's no demand that's on the ayman unless he does something stupid, like or he does something that's not normally done, that is wrong for him to do. And so he says udwan, which is like tafrit. These are the same thing. And such also like this is like if he went on a trip with the money, like normally this would be opening it up, and back in the day this would be opening up to loss. Because when somebody goes on a trip, they're traveling in a wilderness and whatnot, they could probably lose the money. Something could happen. Maybe they get stuck on the trip. They're going to have to use the money or something like that. And so this would be a way of, that's what they mention here. In this day and age, I'm not for sure if that would still apply. But also, so if he went on a trip without the permission of the person who gave him the money, then and this would be almost like putting the money at risk without doing that investment. And so the next thing he says here is وَإِذَا حَصَلَ رِبْحٌ وَخُسْرَانٌ جُبْرِيَ الْخُسْرَانُ بِالرِّبْحِ. So say he makes a profit, and then after this he falls into some type of loss, and this loss that he makes, it'll be made up for with the profit that was previous. So he would use this profit to make up for this previously, just to make sure that the person who put in the money isn't coming out on the bad side of this. So maybe he made profit at the beginning, this person gets his money, and then after this, he goes into loss. So this person, like the rib that was before, would cover to make sure that things come out even, and that so he's not going down in the hole at the end of this. And so this is what the author has to say about this and this particular transaction. And there's this is definitely, if something happens, of course, say there's loss. This loss is on everybody. The loss is on everybody. Like, so everybody is going to lose the money, and the person who gave the investor, he loses. This is one of the types of transactions that is risky though, and the risk is upon the person, the investor. And so of course. Some, like I've heard some of the shuyukh, they don't recommend people do this unless they really trust this person that they're doing it with. Because like I know people that are tajir, and someone did this with them, and I'm pretty sure they lost like $1 million. It was like almost $1 million Egyptian pounds in the airport in customs. But this of course is something. That people have to be mindful of these things. The same thing if someone was back in the day, if they had like pirates on ships that came somewhere, and someone raided the ship and took all the goods. That person, that tajir, is not going to be held liable. Yeah, and yes, he's not going to get he's not going to come up on profit either. So he's losing a profit, but he's not going to be held to pay back for all that money that went into the investment. No. Yeah, so it's a risky transaction, but this is. But this is the basic way that it works out here. And so, of course, like the shuyukh that I know, that I've seen people that have done this, they would usually say, be very, very careful about who you do this with. And because, of course, you don't ever want to get yourself in a situation where you're going to end up hating another brother, you know, even if you don't want to hate him. But if you gave him like $40,000 and then he ended up getting into something bad, made a couple bad deals, and boom, Allah musta'an. So this is, of course, it's something to be mindful. But this is the basic principle of how this transaction works for this investment. And then, of course, this is different than stocks, because stocks is you're actually buying a piece of the company that's value goes up, and you're actually and you're becoming a sharika. It's like kind of and putting yourself into the sharika itself, like a part of the company. You're part of the people that own the company. As opposed to this, which is someone who's investing in an individual to take his money and flip it for more, and then he can he's able to get a profit from this if everything goes right. All right. So the next couple of chapters. Yeah, you have some. Jubria means fixed. So he fixes the amount that was of the loss with the previous ribh. The previous profit, the previous rabih, and the total. So, like if there's loss, then the previous gain would fix the later khusran to make sure that things even out. And that would kind of go into like accounting work. You have to see how that works back and forth. As far as like the mathematical details, I'm not certain exactly how that would work out. So the next couple chapters are going to talk about these other types of relationships in this way. And so let's see, we'll probably go through another one or two, and then we'll call it for tonight so we don't go too late. And so he says, Fasl, rahimahullah, he says, وَالْمُسَاقَاتُ جَائِزَةٌ عَلَى النَّخْلِ وَالْكَرْمِ. And so he says, al-musaqa. Al-musaqa, this is like, in general, saqi is like when someone waters something. And musaqa is a type of transaction where someone would have a field or something, or they would have an orchard, and they want an orchard of, let's say it's going to be dates or grapes. These are the two that are permissible that he mentions here. So this person wants someone to water and take care of them. He's got the date trees, he's got the grapes and whatnot, but he wants someone to water and take care of it. And what is their price going to be? Their price will be a portion of the harvest. So that's their price. That's how they'll get their price. They will take care of the harvest, and at the end of it, they get a portion. And this is a way to give them a work. Like they give work, and also their work is not going to be like a general stipend, but it's actually be a portion of the goods that they come out, which is an incentive for them, of course, to do a good job. To make sure that they get the best yield and that they're taking the best care of the dates or grapes, that they can do this. And normally this is something that is one of those types of transactions that we don't know exactly what is going to come out of the end of it. And so because of this gharar, it would normally be like something that's prohibited. This is the way the Shafi'is would look at it. But because of the need for it, a lot of people will have, like rich people in particular, they have land, but they don't have the time to take care of all of the things. So by them hiring people that their hiring is going to be based on their productivity, then this is good for everybody. And it's involved. So this is something that is that's allowed to do it because of the haja that is calling for it, like the need for it, for this type of transaction. And also the Prophet ﷺ, he also did a transaction like this for Ahlul Khaybar. So when he conquered Khaybar, which is a very like heavy, like there was a lot of dates and whatnot. It's a heavy. It's a place of a lot of cultivation and whatnot that would have a lot of dates that would be produced from there. Once he conquered this, the people that were there, he basically gave them the choice to stay there, and that they would have a certain portion of the Yahud. They could work the land, and they would have a certain portion in return for them working the land. And that was the agreement. You get a certain portion of what the harvest is for working the land, and the rest comes to us. And so that was their payment for staying there and working the land. And so this was a part of the agreement there. And so this type of transaction is permissible. There's two other transactions that are close to this that are impermissible. So it's important that we look at these two conditions that he brings up here. So he says, وَلَهَا شَرْطَانِ. And he says there's two conditions here that needs to be done. He says أحدهما أن يقدرها بمدة معلومة. So the time needs to be known for how long they're going to do this, which normally, like, there's a harvest, and this usually comes in a year. So this will normally be in the year that this needs to be for a time that normally there will be a harvest in. So that's the type that they would need to do that, and both of them would have to know this time period, because this is also an agreement. So if somebody in the middle of this agreement, say they walk away from their job, the person who owns the land, he's going to be at a loss, and he has to go find somebody to fill in this void. So of course, like, this is something that's binding, and once they make this agreement, it's binding for them to finish through, because there's going to be a loss on the side of anyone that goes down on it and says that, oh, I don't want it anymore. There's going to be a loss. Or if it was the person, such as the person that owns the land, if he says, I don't want you guys anymore, in the middle of their work, they did all this work and they didn't get their harvest yet. So, of course, this is a loss for both of them. They have to go. They have to finish through this time, and so that they have a time that is set for this. That's important. And this is a time that would normally there would be a harvest in. And the second condition here, أَيُعَيِّنَ لِلْعَامِلِ جُزْءًا مَعْلُومًا مِنَ الثَّمَرَةِ. So he needs to make specific. He needs to make specific how, for the worker, what portion of the fruit that he's going to get. And so this is of the other important things that he does, and so he needs to make sure that this is that this person knows how much of the portion that they're going to get from this fruit beforehand, so that they know what they're working for. And of course, of the other conditions, that needs to be something that's specifically with thamar. That this is it can only be with thamar. It can't be like you get money as well, because this is a different transaction. So mixing these two doesn't work. So it has to be, if he's going to do this transaction, it has to be with the actual fruit itself as the payment. And so the next thing that he'll talk about here is, he says, ثُمَّ الْعَمَلُ فِيهَا عَلَى ضَرْبَيْنِ. He says then the type of work that's on this is on two types. عَمَلٌ يَعُودُ نَفْعُهُ إِلَى الثَّمَرَةِ فَهُوَ عَلَى الْعَامِلِ. So there's two different types when it comes to the farming of these things. There's a type of work that is that its benefit goes to the actual fruit being produced, and this is upon the person who's working. Like, this is what he's responsible for. So like, such as like watering the trees, pruning the trees, and like with nakhl, a lot of times they have to climb up and they have to actually do talqih, which is like make sure that they get fertilized from the other, like there's male trees and there's female trees, and you have to make sure you take the cross pollination. So you have to pollinate the nakhl if you want it to actually get fruit. So all of this, everything that has to do with the fruit itself, this is upon the amil to make sure it gets done, such as the watering, all these other things. And then the other, and also like pruning it, and that what is involved with that. And he says then there's the other type of amil, which is, he says darbain. These are two types. Darb means type here. He says wa amalun ya'udu nafruhu ila al-ard. And there's another type of work that its benefit goes to the actual land itself. And this fahuwa ala rabbil mal. This is on the person who owns the land, such as like having the gates around the land. And also certain things about, such as like having buildings on the land and whatnot. This is things that actually has to do with the land themselves. So this is something that's on the Rabbul Mal, like the person who is the owner. He's the one who has to do this.
He has to do the amal or provide the money.
He has to, either one. He does either does the amal, or he provides workers to do it for him. But this is what's upon him. It's not upon the people who are doing this musaqa. Like the amil here, he's not responsible for the land itself. He's responsible for taking care of the crops until they come to fruition. So like as far as the buildings on the land, they're not responsible for it.
Yeah.
Or like
the amal that he does, let's say it costs a certain amount. Does the Rabbul Mal have to provide the cost, or?
For the amal of what? The people?
No, for the amal that the amal is doing, like watering and stuff like that.
The watering is so he needs to provide the alat. So if they're going to be doing watering, he needs to have like the watering system in place. He needs to actually have whether he has a pump, say in these days we would have a water pump, or he has the trenches, or he has whatever the water system is, he's the one who provides the system. They're the one who do the work. Alright? Yeah. And any other questions? Yeah.
I'm just curious, why does this only apply to like date trees and grapes?
The reason it's these two is because normally this is as I mentioned before, it goes against the norm. This is the way the Shafi'is look at it. This is a type of transaction that goes against the norm, so we only do it with what was narrated. It was narrated with Khaybar, and this was for dates. And since grapes also turn into raisins, they'll do qiyas very like ihtiyatan. Like they'll do qiyas for grapes, but they won't do qiyas for anything else. They'll say grapes are like it. And so usually grapes will make the cut for qiyas on tamr, but nothing else really makes the cut. And this is the view of the Shafi'i madhab. We're learning this.
But would it mean that necessarily you'd be in the wrong for doing the same type of like business setup, but for crops?
But for other types of crops. On the Shafi'i madhab, it would not be okay. This is for these types of crops only. For dates and grapes. Yes.
Okay.
These are the only two. Yeah. So if you're doing it with corn and other things, no.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm sure like some of the other madhabs, they allow this. And they don't close down that qiyas. But this is the way. The Shafi'is a lot of times with these certain when it comes to transactions, they will look at a certain meaning and they will hold on to this meaning, and then they see the meaning is basically anyone who's doing ijara, which is the next chapter, anyone who's doing a job, they should know how much that job is going to give them at the beginning. And if they don't know how much this is, then there's ambiguity, and no one should be working with ambiguity. So if there is something that is narrated where they are able to do a job with ambiguity, we only take what's narrated because it's narrated. And we don't say, oh, this is allowed for anything else like that, unless it's super close to it. Like grapes are super close to dates, they say, because they both go into a certain state. And so they will allow it for grapes. But other than this, no, the qiyas stops here. That's where they draw the line here. They say this is against the normal qaida that you need to know how much you're getting for this work.
It's almost like the same logic that you need to know what you're buying before you buy something. Like it cannot be
This is a gharar.
When you're exchanging something of value.
Yeah, you need to know how much you're getting. You need to this person who's working, he needs to know how much he's going to get from his work. And like crops, other than dates and whatnot, maybe the person doesn't know how much the crop is going to get. And maybe he works all this time and something happens to the crop. Or like it just comes really weak. And so this person's getting a bum end of the deal. So they stop it to what is narrated, and then they only draw a little. They add grapes because it's super close. In a lot of places, they'll add the grapes alongside of it. You'll find with like I believe in zakat, they also add grapes, but they don't add anything else. And there's other places where they'll add grapes alongside the tamar because the tamar is what's narrated, and they'll add grapes because it's close. But they won't add dried apricots, for example. No, dried mangoes. No. Yeah. Wallahu a'lam for that.
Because of those things that weren't available in the peninsula?
It's not a staple. It's not a staple food. But dates were a staple food. People would live off of them. People don't live off of mangoes. So there's other meanings as well that are involved besides just the fact that it can be stored. Is also lived off of and relied upon. Most of the time, these other foods aren't relied upon. Like apricots, dried apricots aren't relied upon. Wallahu ta'ala alam. Of course, this is the area of ijtihad, but this is the view of the Shafi'i madhab in this matter. And I'm almost positive that Ibn Qayyim has something else to say about this, because Ibn Qayyim, he has a whole in I'lam al-Muqiyyin, in this book, he basically has a whole section where he says all of these things that the Shafi'i madhab and other people, not just the Shafi'i madhab, said goes against qiyas. He actually says, no, you understand it wrong. He says, first off, if you think it goes against qiyas, no, it doesn't go against qiyas. And he brings a bunch of evidence that these things are alongside of qiyas, so you can make this, and he opens the doors according to a qiyas that fits alongside of what the Quran and Sunnah have come. And he definitely has strong arguments, but of course, we're in a Shafi'i class, so I'll keep it for here for now. But know that there are strong arguments on the other side of this, on the other side of the table, and whatnot, of course, for someone to do the ijtihad in that.
Is the payment a percentage of the produce, or?
Yeah, it's a percentage of the produce. Yeah.
It can't be like a fixed weight, or?
No, it shouldn't be a fixed weight. It needs to be a percentage. And when he says juz, he means by a percentage of that. That's what he means by juz. That's not like a fixed weight. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So the next thing he says here, fasl wa kullu ma amkana. So he's going to talk about ijara, and this is the last thing we'll finish up with for today. And of course, we've been talking about this a lot. A lot of these go around this major. This is the basis or the foundation. And so he says here for ijara, which is renting. And ijara is of two types. You're either renting an actual object, like an actual thing, or you're renting a service. So you can either sell like a service, which is like selling a service, and it's kind of like selling, or you're either renting a service or you're renting an actual object. So say I have someone, they come to me and they say, I want to buy a ticket to go to Alexandria. So I give them a ticket to go to Alexandria, and this ticket is good for and I give them a ticket that I'm going to get them a bus ride to Alexandria. Not this bus in particular. You're not renting this bus. You're renting any bus ride to get you to Alexandria. So if the bus goes in the middle and then it breaks down, they have the right to keep going with the rest. I have to get another bus to get them the rest of the way there. Or I'm renting an actual individual bus. This is the actual bus I'm going. If something breaks down at the bus, so I'm sorry. I can't do this. You get the money for what we did here, and this is it. So there's some differences. Also, it can be so this is the difference between a benefit and the actual object. And this also has another word. It's also called ikra, which is usually used for like the ikra is one of the other words, and it's used for one of these two. I forget exactly which one. It'll probably come up though. So here he says al-fasl في الإجارة, and this is basically تمليك منفعة بعوض بشروط تأتي. So like this is تمليك, which is like giving someone ownership of a manfa, not an object, but a benefit. بعوض بشروط, for an actual cost with conditions that will come. And so this, and the evidence for this is فإن أرضعن لكم فآتوهن أجورهن. And so if they have, this is talking about the women. If someone has like a woman that they divorce the woman, and then she's gonna nurse this kid. So she should be given the ujur for nursing, for breastfeeding, of course. And this is like the basis of it that comes in the Quran, of this type of renting of a service. And of course, there's issues with this, because we don't know how much the kid is going to drink. Every kid is different. How much he's going to drink, that's something that is kind of ambiguous. We don't know how much the kid is going to drink, when he's going to be hungry, when he's not going to be hungry. So of course, there's definitely areas of jahala here. But going back to what the author here he talks about, he says, وَكُلُّ مَا أَمْكَنَ الْإِنْتِفَاعُ بِهِ مَعَ بَقَاءِ عَيْنِهِ صَحَّتْ إِجَارَتُهُ. So this is almost exactly what he said before with iyara, or ayariya. So he said that anything that you're allowed to do, anything that you're allowed to have a benefit from it, while this thing still exists afterwards, then it's okay. Sahhat ijaratuhu. Then you're allowed to rent it. So just like we said, like for ayariya, it's the same thing for this, except this is for money. This is for money, as opposed to the other one was not with money. So it needs to be something that lasts afterwards. That is a benefit that lasts. And he says, إذا قدرت منفعته بأحد أمرين بمدة أو عمل. And also with the condition that this is according to a certain time. This time needs to be speculated. As opposed to ariya, we didn't need to do his time, because this is the benefit he's getting, he can get it back anytime. But here, it's actually for an actual time that needs to be specified, and the actual work that's being done, or amal. And also like the actual work that's being done. Say I have someone that I want to cut up my thobe. I get a thobe and I want him to cut it up. So we would have a time that he's going to cut up the thobe, and trim it and whatnot. And also like what is the actual thobe, what is the job that he's going to do. He needs to know. And this is the type of ijara. So I'm getting his service of him cutting the thobe up and making it look nice. And so then the next thing he'll say here, وإطلاقها يقتضي تعجيل الأجرة إلا أن يشترط التأجيل. And so if no one says anything, he says إطلاقها means like there's no specification given. If it's just said that this person is going to do this job, يقتضي تعجيل الأجرة. تعجيل is that this would come up right away. The person has to pay right up front. So say you're getting in a bus, like this is also a type of ijara. You get on the bus, you know where the bus is going. This person, as soon as you get on the bus, he deserves your money. If he doesn't say anything, you give him the money right away. Now if he doesn't want to ask you for the money until the end, he doesn't have to ask you. But his right is right away. If no one says anything, his right is for you to give him the money right away. Or anyone who does any job for you, his right is to get the money right up at the beginning. So ana itlaq. So if no one says anything, then the money should be given right away. He says illa an yushtarata ta'jil, except if someone makes a condition that it's going to be paid afterwards. And like this is I don't know how a lot of people are, but in Egypt at least, from what I've seen, is most people they take the payment at the end of the job. But the right of the person is at the beginning of the job. So if someone's gonna give you, like if you're gonna go on like this, is also someone's getting a bus ticket to go somewhere, and they go to the cashier, they pay right up front. This is the normal thing. But if they agree or they make a condition to pay at the end, okay, that's fine. But the right of them is to get it right up front before they even before they finish the work. They shouldn't have to delay the payment until after they finish the work. And of course, a lot of these things, it goes back to the urf. Like it goes back to the customs of the land. In these things, what is known. But this in general, like he says, itlaq, if there's no other deciding factors, then it would be paid right up front. All right? But the urf is also a deciding factor to take in each thing is according to what is known in the customs of that land. This is also kind of like a condition. And he also says, وَلَا تَبْطُلُ الْإِجَارَةُ بِمَوْتِ أَحَدِ الْمُتَعَاقِدَيْنِ. And so, if somebody, say I'm renting right now from a guy, if one of us died, that doesn't mean that my act with him, or like my month's rent, is automatically done. Just because one of us dies. No, it keeps going. With whatever the agreement is, it keeps going. And whoever died, then the people that come after him, that are like his waratha, like the people that would inherit from him, they're the ones who take up the responsibility of that, of holding to the end of that agreement. But this agreement is set for a time, and it's not like a shariah. If someone dies, then it stops. It goes away. You know, this is the Shafi'i view. Or with the wakala, if someone dies, then it goes away. But rather here, if this person does it, if one of these people dies, it still stays. The act and this contract still remains, regardless of whether or not someone dies or not. All right? Yeah.
If someone's renting and that person dies, the family would have to continue that.
Yeah, they have to respect the contract.
They have to keep paying the rent even if like they're not living there.
They respect the contract that's made. So if they want to go down on the contract and find someone else to pick up the contract, okay. But they're expected to finish whatever the contract is that's set. They're expected to they're held liable for that. And the same thing if someone is the renter dies. Like he can't just he can't have his kids can't come and kick everybody out while they already made a contract for that place. They get to stay there and keep doing the rent contract with this person. And after they finish that, then the kids can decide what they want to do with that place. If they want to sell it or whatever they're doing. And so he says here, وَتَبْطُلُ بِتَلَفِ الْعَيْنِ الْمُسْتَأْجَرَةِ. And so he says, and in tabtul, this is the thing that would, like this ijara, would be invalidated with the ayn al-musta'jara. And so as I mentioned, there's either ijara with an actual item. So I'm renting this horse. So if this horse falls over dead, then that's all over. Like the ijara, if I was renting this horse, then I'm done. Like, or if I was renting this particular car, as soon as this car breaks down, khalas, like there's no more ijara. This is, we pay for whatever the portion that he gave, but then the rest of it is done. It's null and void. And then, but if I was paying for a service in general, I was paying for me to make it to a certain place, then this is a different thing. This is not the ayn. I'm not paying for the ayn itself, like the actual object. I'm paying for anything that fits this description, like salam. So you mentioned we have like a salam, which is like a description of something that we're giving. It's also like this. If you had a certain description of a product that you're offering this person, say it's an umrah package. This is a good example, inshallah. The umrah package, it doesn't matter what plane gets you there. You're getting there because you have all of these things that are inside the umrah package. You're going to go make umrah, you're going to stay at this hotel, and you're going to eat this type of food, and you're going to go to these different places and go to Medina and do this, that, and the other. All of these things are listed. It doesn't matter what person takes you there, per se. If that's not a part of the umrah package, it's not like a certain person you're going to have a guide. If they have a certain guide, okay, then you're renting this guy in particular. If he dies, then you're out of this guy. But if it's just you're going to have a guide that's a sheikh, then they have to come up with a sheikh, regardless of this guy or the another guy. And that's the product that they're offering. So there's these different aspects that go into it. So if one of these things, that if you're renting an actual person's time, then in this case, if something happens to him, then khalas, the contract's done, and it's null and cancelled. But if you are renting an actual service, then that person has to come to with the service. So there's a difference between that, and that service is not muayyan. This is actual like certain sifat that you're telling this person you're going to do. You're going to get them to these different places, you know. All right. And so this is something he mentions just here. بِتَلِفِ الْعَيْن. He mentions the ayn, but there's also the other side of it, which is also a service which isn't the ayn, and this would not have it. This would not become nullified if one of these people died, or went away and was not able to do that. All right. So he also says here, وَلَا ضَمَانَ عَلَى الْأَجِيرِ إِلَّا بِعُدْوَانٍ. And this is the last thing we'll talk about here for today. He says that there's no the ajir, he is not held liable unless he does something that is like tafrit with this object. So as long as he treated the object in a normal way that would be treated in use, then there's nothing upon him if something happens to this object. So say it's an object that he's say he was renting a bulldozer, and the bulldozer all of a sudden like the engine went out, and he wasn't doing anything unnormal, but the engine went out, and now the engine's gone, done. So in this case, he's not held liable for this. Khalas, it's done, and he's not going to be asked for any money because this engine went out on him. And it's actually impermissible for a car, if someone is renting a car, it's impermissible for them to tell the person that he is responsible for any wear and tear, like such as if the transmission goes out, and to say you're renting the car, you're responsible for the transmission. If it goes out, you're responsible for to replace or fix any major things of the car. This is not permissible. Of course, like the actual like gas and whatnot, okay, this is normal. But like for him to say something that like the car actually stops without it, that he's responsible for it, no. He's paying for the benefit of using this car. And so if you are no longer providing the benefit for using this car, you can't say that he is the one that has to provide the benefit for using the car, because that's why he's paying. He's paying for a car that's usable. So if the car is no longer usable, then he is no longer responsible for this car. And he can't be the one that is responsible for making this car usable, because that goes back on itself, like the purpose of why he's paying. And so, of course, this is a very important point, and this actually comes up sometimes with the whole rent to buy. There's a concept of rent to buy, and this occasionally has a lot of problematic things because of who's the one who's responsible for it if anything goes wrong. So you have these rent to buy contracts, and if this person is renting to buy, he's renting. If anything happens at the end of this, is he responsible for the car, or who's responsible for the car? So if he went up to, he's got a 24 payment plan for renting to buy. So at the 23rd payment plan, the engine goes out. Like, who's the one responsible for this car? You know, and if they say he's the one responsible for the car, that's not an ijara. Then this is not a valid ijara, because he can't be the one that's held responsible for it. So of course there's a way to do the rent to buy, and the way to do it is that you can't have it in one sitting. Like, you can have, if you rent this for 2 years, say you have, if you rent this for 2 years, I promise you that you can buy it for a small price at the end. And this is a promise. It's not something that's binding, but this person can promise him at the end that he'll sell it to him for $1 or $2 or something like that. Or he'll promise that he gives it to him at the end of it when he does this. But it has to be separate. It can't be in the same thing. This is, of course, there's a whole other deal that's not in the book. But this is a deal that comes up, and it's something that is important for people to know, just in general, that the renting to buy, a lot of times the contract is not permissible Islamically, the way the contract is written up. And because of it is part of just the way of, like, how are we looking at this? Who's the one responsible for this car? Because if it was payment plans, this is one thing. But what if the car goes down? You know, they're going to take the car all together. You know, if this person at the 23rd payment plan, he's got a 24 payment plan, and at the 23rd payment, he can't pay it. They're going to take back the car, and he gets nothing for all that money he put in. And usually he's paying more than normal. Than, like, normally what he would be paying for, like, actual renting. He's usually paying more, because that's the kind of like the benefit of that. So of course, like the way that it would always have to work, there's a way to do it, but it can't be, it's either ijara or it's a payment plan for that he bought it outright. And then there's different ways of putting it together. But inshallah, we'll call it for this class in general. وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين.